Hey guys, it's Jack. I wanted to let you know that we're starting a new push for subscriptions here on Human Events Daily. So make sure that when you're listening to this podcast, you hit subscribe, you download it, and you share it with 5 of your friends. Make sure they're all going and downloading as well, because we need to get the signal out as much as possible. Look, we've done so much over the past couple of years since this show started, and we're only going to do so much more. Let's get it. This is what happens when the fourth turning meets fifth generation warfare.
A commentator, international social media sensation, and former Navy intelligence veteran.
This is Human Events with your host, Jack Posobiec.
Christ is king.
Trump is making moves to restrict birthright citizenship, just signing 2 new executive orders just weeks after his first attempt was rejected by the U.S. Supreme Court.
Unfortunately, we had a bad decision, very unfair decision. Our country suffers because of it, and we're ending it a different way.
The president signing 2 executive orders Thursday, taking a more narrow approach to stop the children born to non-citizens in the U.S. from automatically being granted U.S. citizenship.
We're cracking down very big crackdowns, and this will give us the right to do it in a much more forceful manner.
In a narrow June decision, the Supreme Court shot down President Trump's first attempt at restricting the right guaranteed by the 14th Amendment to the Constitution. The new executive orders are more focused, denying automatic citizenship to children of foreign diplomatic staff working in the U.S., children of people classified as alien enemies, children born in U.S. territories if Congress changes the law, and children born to mothers taking part in so-called birth tourism.
We have some breaking news this morning. New data shows concern in the job market. U.S. employers lost 23,000 jobs in July, falling well short of expectations. Meanwhile, the unemployment rate changed little, ticking down 4.1%.
The Trump administration has quietly ordered U.S. airports to hand over the name of every single passenger to ICE. Not suspects, not people with warrants, everyone. The TSA is now feeding ICE passenger lists multiple times a week, and ICE is cross-checking those names against deportation databases.
John Gannon is a 75-year-old businessman and lifelong Republican who supported President Trump in 2024.
I wouldn't do that again, not after this fiasco.
His fiancée, 45-year-old Venezuelan immigrant Yasmin Suarez-Reyes, was detained by ICE at George Bush Intercontinental Airport in Houston in late July.
8 ICE agents swarmed Jasmine and detained her, didn't tell us why.
Help! Help us! Hey, you guys, come help us! ICE is here, help us! Help us! No, don't show me in! Please. I don't want to. No, stop! No, I'm not going to do that. You can come on this side. That's fine.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard today's edition of Human Events Daily. We're here live on Real America's Voice. Today is August 7th, 2026, Anno Domini. My gosh, you look at those videos that are coming out now, and CBS had this guy last night or the night before, I don't know what it was, that he's up there saying, oh, and ICE, they took my fiance and she's from Venezuela, and yeah, she may not have been here legally, but she told me she loved me, and that's it. Like, dude, you're getting played, bro. You're getting played. By the way, how many adult-age children does this guy have who are now breathing a sigh of relief? I bet you it was this guy's adult children that called ICE on the, the quote-unquote new mom-to-be there from Venezuela. It's like, bro, she's using you, okay? What do you mean? She told me I wasn't like all the other men. Jasmine told me this was for real. Jasmine told me no man had ever made me feel like that. And, she's just trying to get a little bit of money to put herself through nursing school, right? She's got a kid at home, right? I'm a good guy. I'm just trying to help. I'm just trying to be out there. I was like, bro, seriously? No. Honestly, like you could probably do a little bit better than just saying, like, in general, if that's what you're looking for, but no, I'm sorry. They have to go back. All the South American hoochies coming up for the sugar daddies. They're going back. Every single one of them. every single one of them. And we're not doing it anymore. We are not doing it anymore. And so guess what? The airport raids are phenomenal. And the airport raids will continue because here's how it works, boys and girls. Airports are located within the federal United States. That means that ICE has jurisdiction at every airport. And I love these guys too. I saw these libs on TikTok, not Chai's page, but and they were saying, "Did you know that the Trump administration is now like looking up every person who gets on a plane? They're like checking the list." I mean, what do you think happens when you go to an airport? What do you think that they're doing when they're checking your ID, when they're checking your facial recognition, when they're doing all that? And I'm not even like, going to come out and supporting that, all of it. But what I'm saying is you do realize that they check that every time you get on a plane, right? There's always a security check. This has been in place since before 9/11. And in fact, and by the way, if immigration had been something that we focused on pre 9/11, then 9/11 wouldn't have happened because those people, a number of them had outstanding visas. A number of them shouldn't have visas in the first place. It literally would have prevented 9/11, literally. And so we're going to continue the airport raids. And if you don't like it, by the way, you can simply go ahead and book a one-way ticket home. It's really simple. You're already at the airport and just think, instead of doing something illegal, I'm going to do the first legal thing that I've done in however many years it's been, and I'm going to go home. It's really simple. If you came into this country and the first thing you did was break in, the first thing you did was not follow our laws, then that makes you a criminal. And that means you have to go back. It's really simple. And I applaud ICE for continuing this. I hope that you have more. I want to see more of these things. I want them to keep going. And to the sugar daddies out there, the 70-year-old sugar daddies, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. You're going to have to actually focus on your own children and grandchildren. Jack Posobiec, back soon, Human Events Daily.
Jack? Where's Jack? Where is he? Jack, I want to see you. Great job, Jack. Thank you. What a job you do. We have an incredible thing. We're always talking about the fake news and the bad, but we have guys, and these are the guys who should be getting Pulitzers.
All right, folks, Jack Posobiec back here, Human Events Daily. Ladies and gentlemen, every day, more of our personal information ends up online than most people realize. Your name, your home address, phone number, family members, old addresses, email addresses, even information from past data breaches is often just a few clicks away. Hundreds of data broker websites collect and publish that information. And unless you take action, it stays right there. Someone with bad intentions can use those details to piece together where you live, who you're related to, and other personal information. If you're politically active, you work in the media, or simply value your family's privacy, it's worth taking seriously. That's where Patriot Protect comes in. Patriot Protect works to remove your personal information from data broker websites before the wrong people can use it. Instead of waiting until after you've become a victim, they help make you much harder to find in the first place. A single phone scam or identity theft incident can cost you thousands of dollars. Protecting yourself is a lot less expensive. Go to patriot-protect.com/POSO and use promo code POSO to save 15%. Take control of your privacy. Add some digital camouflage to your life and make yourself much harder to find online. Patriot-protect.com/post. I want to welcome on our first guest. It's, of course, the great Beau French. He's running for Texas Railroad Commissioner. He won the primary. Beau, how are you?
Jack, I'm great. Thanks for having me on today.
Well, you're running statewide in Texas. Of course, Texas is a huge target state for the Democrats this time around. And we've been having this, it started with this, they called it the Great Burrito Beef on social media the last week or so. And you popped in there and you had this great chart that you were talking about. And then you and I had a conversation and you said that, look, when out on the campaign trail, as you go across the great state of Texas, you've been talking to a lot of young voters, a lot of working class voters. And it seems to me that's where you're hearing a lot of these same concerns. So tell us about the chart. Tell us about what you're hearing.
Yeah, I mean, it's really simple, Jack. I mean, economics 101. We have sort of two sides to this equation. We have the fact that, our government has, spent uncontrollably over the last number of decades. They've printed enormous amounts of money and saddled future generations with massive amounts of debt. And most Republicans will agree with that. But what the other side of the equation that a lot of people seem to miss is the fact that, and, Trump tapped into this, in his first election 10 years ago, and is the fact that there are a bunch of people in this country who shouldn't be here. And why are they here? It's not just the illegal aliens, and estimates range from 50 million to 100 million of those. It's also the H-1B workers. It's the people who have come to this country because they view it as an economic zone. Can't blame them for wanting to come. But the effect of that is those people are more often willing to work for much lower wages. So while everything, because of the massive amount of inflation that government spending and largesse has caused, wages have not kept up with that because we have 100 million people or whatever the number is in this country who are willing to work at a lower price. So if you're, 25 years old and you're, a couple years out of college or a few years out of high school and you're trying to get a job, and especially like blue collar type jobs, you just think about it. These people are having to compete with someone who is willing to work for 75%, 50% of the wages that you need to survive on. And so everything is more expensive, but wages haven't kept up. And that's what these young people are noticing. And let me tell you something. I've traveled the whole state of Texas. I'm talking to young people all of the time, and this is a consistent theme. And I think it's one of the reasons why my campaign has kind of caught fire, because I'm really speaking about these issues that they know. And I think very few people in public office are willing to address the root causes of these issues. And, it's time we change that.
Well, and it's so important the way that you're describing this because obviously, you're running for office. You have to listen to the voters. That's first and foremost. Because I've seen, kind of this toned up response from a lot of the DC Republicans saying, oh, you just kind of have to suck it up and you should settle for less. And that's not really something as a party you want to be offering voters when they tell you, hey, I'm experiencing pain. I mean, it goes back to 1992 and, Bill Clinton, who I'm no fan of, but he would connect with voters because he said, I feel your pain. He would just say it over and over and over, and we saw what happened with Bush and Perot, and the fact that Perot even had that lane to go into was because Bush was so tone deaf on so many of these issues. And the idea being that the first and foremost is meet the people where they are, and it sounds like you're doing that. And then yes, talk about not just cost of living, but then also all of these underlying things. We were doing a show last night with the Turning Point crew, and I said it's kind of like layers of a burrito, if you will. That the amount of pressure that that young voters, young people, the working class are feeling because you got rent being up, you've got the pressure on the workforce, and again you've got illegal aliens, H-1Bs, H-2Bs that have taken up so many of the jobs that that has a downward pressure effect on wages.
Well, and there's the other side of that too, is on the demand side, right? The Democrats have wanted to make this election about affordability. And look, I think that's a fair thing to talk about. But let's look at why things are less affordable. Again, if there are 100 million people in this country from foreign lands, mostly third world lands, occupying housing and apartments, well, guess what? The landlords can charge more for those because the demand is higher. So this is why, Scott Bessent was on TV, I believe yesterday, and he mentioned that everywhere where ICE has gone, rents have actually come down. And of course, because you are removing the people who are occupying housing and apartments and freeing that up for the marketplace to actually work as it is intended to. And so, there are lots of facets to this, but really the overarching issue, and especially the one that young people feel the most, is mass deportations, right? If we can address mass deportations and speed that up in a way, beyond just the million or 2 million that they're talking about doing, and get that to 5 or 10 million a year, well, then we can really start seeing dramatic change in the demand side of the equation, and then wages will start to go back up as well. And really that is how we're going to reset this country, and that's how we're going to save young people from being attracted to these DSA type candidates who are promising them the sun. Of course, we all know that you and I are old enough to know that socialism doesn't work. But a lot of young people don't necessarily know that. They certainly weren't taught that in school or in history class. And so it is attractive when you're promised all of these things, because you're feeling the economic pain now. And so Republicans, it is incumbent on us to demonstrate that not only do we hear them and understand them, but we actually have solutions.
Well, that's exactly right. And Bo, I would be remiss if people say, "Oh, wait, you're running for the Railroad Commission. That doesn't directly affect deportations. You're talking about this, and obviously it's a key issue." But one thing that I think people don't realize is, and this is something that just coming to really that you've kind of educated me on, is that what you do have direct ability to affect is gas prices, because that is a key regulatory position for all, not just of the rail lines, but the pipelines down in Texas. So talk about what you would be able to do to directly help with relief at the pump.
Yeah, I mean, look, this election is really pretty a stark contrast between my opponent and I. My opponent, your listeners probably heard of James Tallarico, who's running against Ken Paxton for the U.S. Senate here in Texas. My opponent serves with Tallarico in the House. There's zero daylight between them on positions. They're both radical leftists who have embraced every LGBTQ degeneracy, have praised CARE, think that George Soros should be running things here. So they're crazy. We all know that. But the reality is the Texas Railroad Commission actually doesn't have anything to do with trains anymore. They moved that over to transportation a long time ago. But it is the regulatory agency over Texas oil and gas industry, which of course in Texas is our largest and most important industry. Is the industry which powers America. We produce almost half the oil and gas in the United States. It is a national security issue. I think Trump has rightly focused for the criticisms that people have of his administration and foreign policy. You could argue that at least he is focused on the free flow of oil around the world and have it be more America friendly, as opposed to discounted oil going to fund our enemies like China and Russia. And so it is a critical position. And in terms of gas prices, my opponent wants to raise taxes on the industry, wants to, bring in Biden EPA type regulations on the industry, increase people's ability to, protest and delay and all those kinds of things. All of this would be terrible, not only for the industry, it would be terrible for gas prices, and it would be terrible for the roughly 2 million jobs in Texas that rely on the oil and gas industry. So, his policies are a disaster. I tell people, if you want higher gas prices, vote for my opponent. If you want lower gas prices, vote for me.
So the idea being that you get some of the regulations down, and if the pump's got two ends, right? You're pumping it out in Texas, and that's getting to the pump where people can get it into their vehicles. I know it's not direct, but just go with me, folks. That if there's more coming through, then that means it's going generally just based on supply and demand. That means costs are going to come down.
Of course. And, look, the way I look at it is I'm not a politician. I'm a business guy. I've been in the oil industry since 1994. I've also, owned businesses in the Middle East. I've had businesses, fighting Islamic Jihad. So look, I understand sort of the complexities of the global markets and what we need to be doing here in Texas. And, my whole position is we need to have a regulatory framework that makes it easier and cheaper for our oil and gas producers to pump oil out of the ground. It's not that hard.
Simple as that. Bo French, we're just about out of time. Packed show today. Where can people go to follow you?
BoFrench.com or at BoFrench on Twitter.
All right. God bless, and God bless Texas. Right back. Jack Posobiec, Human Events Daily.
You talk about influencers. These are influencers, and they're friends of mine. Jack, Posobiec. Where's Jack? Jack, he's done a great job.
All right, folks, Jack Posobiec back live, Human Events Daily, Real America's Voice. And of course, as we know, on Friday, we like to throw the question out to you guys because we see on Fridays, you are the guest. And so I want to put this out. I put it out on social media and we'll get it up here as well. And here's our question today. It's really simple because I think that the GOP needs something that they can rally people behind in 2026. It needs to be simple. So you take the psychology of no tax on tips. Now that affects you if you are if you work and you accept tips. But why not extend that to everyone? Should the GOP campaign on no taxes for working people? When I say working people, I mean working families, I mean working individuals. You take a number, you do an individual number, family number, joint filing, whatever it is. And maybe it's what under 250K for joint, maybe under 100 for individual, whatever the number is, something along those lines. I think that is absolutely going to be a huge win. It's just going to be a huge win. It's going to be something that people can hear. Wow, if we vote for Republicans, no taxes. No taxes if we vote for Republicans. Wow. That's something you can go to the working class, you can go to young folks and say, guess what? If you vote for us, there's going to be no tax. And we're working on it right now. And we just need to expand our lead so we'll be able to get that in. You do something like that, you're offering something directly to voters. Offer something directly to voters. It's really not that hard. I'd love to get some questions in on this. And first response we got in is from our good friend, the Wuhan clan, also goes by Wuhan Fourth Turning Swan. He says, in 2024, J.D. Vance proposed a $5,000 child tax credit. Neocons ended up cutting this to $2,200 because your kids can always just eat ramen. JD was 2 years ahead of this conversation. Well, he always is. Cliff Maloney, of course, our good friend Cliff Maloney writes in from Citizens Alliance, Doors Win Wars. He says, yes. C. Nadi is in with the only morally defensible tax rate is 0. Sister Stick says, if they do, I feel like there will be a backlash from the anti-Trumpers because this was part of the campaign promise in 2024. Well, remember, that was no tax on tips. Now we're saying no tax on everyone who's under a certain income level. So if you're a working family, if you're a working individual, if you're just starting out, no tax. There's going to be no tax. You pay no tax. It's really simple. Let's see. Somi Hill says, MAGA is standing up to our faith in God and Christian values. The Democrat communists have decided to sell this country out to woke, radical Islamic values. We can't allow these liberals to succeed. Let's turn out in huge numbers during the midterms. Mari comes in and she writes, they need to do something other than hide. It's really simple. It's really simple. You have to be offering something. I'll pop over here to the Rumble chat. Let's see. Sacagawea says, worked in the insurance industry and would hear these things. Phenomenal. We've got, she also says that my first car came from Enterprise Rent-A-Car. Have to be careful of those. They tend to get beat up. That's true. However, if you get a car if you're buying a car that was former rental, you can get one with just, that only has 1 year on it. So you can get some pretty good deals there. Patrick Collins III says no tax on the first 120,000. Yeah, that sounds good. I'm okay with that. First 120,000. If you think 120 is the number, I said 100, 120. I'm okay for that. 13K Woods does remind us that, of course, it is Franco Friday. Happy Franco Friday to everyone out there. The facts that people are saying now they're talking about the rental cars that's a lot of the rental cars aren't quite out there yet. Let's see what else. Let's see. This one's in from Joe. It says, I don't know what in the world they are thinking, but they need to get the economic messaging under control. I think you're absolutely correct. Margaret, yes, single people need a tax break too. And that's what I'm saying. To be clear, this is working people. So that's why I didn't say working families, right? So working people would include if you're an individual, if you're single, if you're a single parent, et cetera, et cetera. I'm saying that I'm just saying that the numbers work out differently depending on how you file your taxes, because some people file as single individual, some people file as joint married joint filing together. So, the number then would be different because taxes are calculated different. That's just the system. That's not what I'm saying. So the number would then definitely be different. This one said, VG Spark says, no taxes for working people or retirees. Nicole says, I love the idea of no taxes. This will definitely get the American people's attention. So many people would want this. So many people would vote for it. A lot of the local governments may be the problem. They all want the homestead and are fighting for that. Well, look, this should be something that should be party-wide. So the president obviously can talk about it at the federal level. Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, the Congress can talk about it at the federal level. But then guess what? If you got candidates that are running for governor, they could talk about it at the state level. And to be sure, many states do not have an income tax. But if your state has an income tax, then boom, you put that one in there. So no taxes under a certain level. It's really simple. I don't see how that would work. Can you explain more? Where would the government get money from? I'm all for it. State taxes too. That's in from Phyllis. Remember, I'm not saying no taxes for everyone. I'm saying up to a certain level. So up to a certain level, and we can, we're throwing out, we're just brainstorming here what that level will be. It could be, I said 100,000 for an individual. Someone said 120,000, so no tax on the first 120, maybe 200 for a couple. So up to the first 200,000, there's no taxes. Then after that, you would pay taxes on the money after that. Someone said no property tax. Ricky says no property tax on primary home. Let's see. Wow, people are flying these. Remember, 1776 humanevents.com, 1776 at humanevents.com. People really like this. People really seem to be liking this idea. They want to hear how it's going to work. They want to hear how it comes in. And, this one says no tax. This is Dennis. No taxes on military pay, including retirement. He said, unless you're an Eagles fan. Wow. Okay, bro. All right, let's go. Let's talk. Right. Meet me post coordinates. Christy says, I vote yes. We are in our late 50s and feel forgotten. We're not seniors quite yet, so no tax on Social Security did not help. Our child has grown up, so the child tax credit did not help us. And my husband gets no overtime, so no help. Where do we fit in? You would fit in here, Christy. This would be for you because no taxes on the first $100,000 or $200,000, $200,000 if you're married filing jointly. So that's the question. I want to throw it out there. Make it viral, folks. No taxes. That's what we're running on. No taxes for working people. Boom. Take it. Jack Posobiec back next.
One communist on the faculty of one university is one communist too many. One communist among the American advisors at Yalta was one communist too many.
All right, folks, Jack Posobiec. We are back live here. Human Events Daily, Real America's Voice. And folks, I want to give a shout out to our good friends over at Allegiance Gold. Allegiance Gold supports the coverage that we do every day, and we appreciate partners who help make reporting like this possible. It also reminds me that security means different things to different people. Whether it's the stories we're covering or the decisions we make for our own families, it's important to think about what we have worked hard to build and protecting it. And how do we do that? Well, we can do that with our friends at Allegiance Gold. We've been working together with them for the past 5 years, and the relationships like that, they're not just built overnight. They're not. They're built on trust, consistency, and showing up for each other. We appreciate their support, and we're proud to have them standing with us. If you'd like to learn any more about what you can do to help protect your family's financial situation, just go to protectwithposo.com. That's protectwithposo.com, or give them a call, 844-577-POSO to learn more. All right, folks, once again, we have on my favorite anti-communist, ladies and gentlemen, Evita Duffy joins us from the great state of Wisconsin. Evita, how are you?
Doing good, Jack. Thanks for having me.
So, all eyes are going to be on Wisconsin. Of course, we're here Friday. You guys have the big election coming up on Tuesday. I got to ask, obviously I know your husband's running, but of course there's this huge fight on the Democrat primary side. Francesca Hong. I mean, I love her so much. I love her to death. I can't get enough of her. I wish her the best. I'm praying for her. I'm praying rosaries for her. What do you think walk us through what's going to happen? You're there on the ground on Tuesday in Wisconsin.
Well, Jack, Francesca Hong is clinically insane. This is a clinically insane woman. The tweets from her keep getting worse. So she's against Thanksgiving. Then we find out she's also against Halloween and Christmas. She goes into a Culver's. If you're from Wisconsin, you know Culver's. Culver's is like our thing. I don't know what like the equivalent of In-N-Out in California. Culver's is our thing. She goes into Culver's and she goes on this anti-white racist screed, says she's worried that her son's going to be around all these white people. Wisconsin's an 85% white state. This woman is a radical communist. She hates Wisconsinites. She hates Americans, as all DSA members do. But she's going to win this primary because the competition is a complete disaster. And the Democrat establishment is absolutely terrified. The same reason the Washington Post is pushing for Kamala Harris, because they know they're going to get a radical Democrat as the presidential nominee if they don't tamper down the communists in their party, is the same reason that these people are completely terrified of Francesca Hong. She scares them because they know what she's pushing is not palatable to regular, normal Americans.
Well, and by the way, and we've said on the show, and I know you know this, that when we talk about Francesca Hong, and gosh, I'm having so much fun pulling up her old tweets. I found some real doozies in there. But Evita, the point is should we really be surprised, knowing what we know about communists, that a communist would hate the cultural holidays of a culture that they were trying to subvert? Isn't this actually what communists always do?
Oh, it is. I mean, this is textbook, right? They want to subvert the mores, the culture, the heritage of that place, and replace it with collectivism, replace it with godless communism. This is the playbook, Jack. And the most unfortunate part is Francesca Hong is actually talking about some things that matter to Americans, right? The price of healthcare, the price of housing, the price of education, the price of childcare. These things are all radically expensive in this country, but communist ideas are only going to make those sectors of life more unaffordable. The reason they're so expensive in the first place, Jack, is because the government is involved in all these sectors. Republicans need to acknowledge, I think, that these sectors of our economy are radically too expensive, talk about how we can actually fix it, instead of denying that Francesca Hong is right, things are too expensive. She just has a terrible idea of fixing it.
Well, no, I completely agree. And, it's really disheartening to see so many Republicans out there, especially DC Republicans, snapping at people, belittling people at the same time that they're trying to ask for their votes. I mean, it's like, are you trying to lose? I mean, and perhaps they are.
No, I think they are trying to. I mean, some of these people I do think are subversive within our own party. They don't care about
That's
winning, right? Donald Trump, he says you're going to get tired of winning with me. These people are losers. They love to lose because they actually don't care about the American people. It's actually kind of similar to the communists. They hate the people because what will Francesca Hong's policies lead to? Not more affordable healthcare and housing. It'll lead to equitable suffering for everyone. On the neocon establishment Republican side, it's going to lead to those same problems. You're still going to have suffering. So I think both sides really hate the American people, the establishment, neocon right, and then of course the communist side of the radical left. There has to be an America First agenda with real policies, the American way. Right? I love your idea of getting rid of taxes, Jack Posobiec. That is actually an American tradition. What did we start this revolution over? Getting rid of taxing and destroying the American people.
Sure did.
Yeah.
No. And so just, it's this idea, this simple idea, right? We're overtaxed, right? No taxation without representation, et cetera. But no taxation was a huge part of that. And I just remember thinking, when are we going to actually provide something directly to voters? So why not? Why not just have Republicans say, and you tell me, right? You're out there in Wisconsin, what do you think so you're married. So married couple, I said maybe 200 to 250. The first 200 to 250 is completely untaxed.
I mean, I love that idea. And I think, taking into account when you have children. I mean, a lot of times the establishment Republicans will say, and the radical left as well, we need to import the third world into our country to fix the labor shortages that we have, how about incentivizing people to have children? If you get married and you have kids, there should be some benefits to that, meaning tax breaks. You shouldn't be suffering and floundering. You should be prospering as Americans when you start a family in this country. That's a message to run on.
I mean, it's really simple. And again, talking to voters, do you think this is something the voters of Wisconsin would be into?
Absolutely, Jack. Absolutely. And also, I think, President Trump has gotten rid of taxes on Social Security. Having that actually implemented into law so it continues, it's not just an executive order, would be also really important. We have to be thinking about what puts the American people first. And when you talk about tax breaks, well, something has to give in our budget, right? And I do think we need to get the government out of the way in all of these sectors of our economy: childcare, healthcare, education, housing. Education is really interesting because Gen Zers are saddled with thousands, and in some cases hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt because they're getting these degrees that are basically worthless, and propped up by a system that will just give you a federal student loan irrespective of how valuable your degree is. Get the government out of the way and you'll see the prices of education radically come down. Charlie Kirk was talking about this all the time. We can't have a Gen Z that prospers and believes in the American dream if they come out into the world and they're immediately in radical amounts of debt.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's not sustainable. The debt is too high. Charlie, of course, talked about this at length in his interview with Tucker Carlson. It was going to be a huge push on his campus tour in 2025, which is, of course, cut short after, I think, the second questioner. He only made it two questioners in. And it was going to be his big thing. And he and I had many conversations about the types of things that we could be offering to those individuals. And by the way, I'm not a UBI person, right? I'm not one of those people who say the government should just be giving out free money. I don't believe in that. I don't think that's right. I think it messes with people's heads. I think it messes with their psychology. But I am someone who says that if there's a relief that the government can provide for people, then you should. And by the way, you never hear the socialists calling about, they'll say tax the rich, but they never say drop taxes on the poor. Funny how that works.
Yeah, of course, Jack, because what they want is taxes. This is why I always say what they want is equitable suffering. We're all going to be equal in our misery. That's what they want. And again, Jack, the problem is that they are talking about things that matter to young people. They are identifying actual problems. It's a disservice to our country for the right to ignore the problems. If we want young people to be brought back from the brink and to reject communism, they're calling themselves democratic socialists. They are communists. If we want to reject the communism, we want our young people to reject the communism, we have to deliver wins for them. We have to make the American dream real.
It's really simple. Running the American dream, having the American dream. Vita, we had a little bit of a guest booking switcheroo. Are you able to hang on? Are you able to hang on for another segment?
Yeah, let's do it.
Vita Duffy, she's going to stay. She's going to hang on for another segment. She's going to walk us through Wisconsin as the president is set to speak in about 15 to 20 minutes up there at the Department of State on mining. Right back here, Human Events Daily, Real America's Voice.
The Jack Posobiec Appreciation Hour. I can say confidently, I think Josh Shapiro would be the vice presidential nominee if it wasn't for Jack Posobiec. And that is, I'm being honest.
All right, folks, ladies and gentlemen, we are back here, Human Events Daily, Real America's Voice, and I'm going to keep pushing it. President Trump's roundtable on mining at the Department of State is set to begin soon. And of course, Real America's Voice will cover that. And I'm going to keep pushing this. What do you guys think of my idea? Run on no taxes for working people. Not just no tax on Social Security, not just no tax on tips. I'm saying this, no taxes for working people. When I say people, that means individuals and families. And yes, the child care tax credit has to be part of this, obviously. and all the rest. Because this is what you need to do when you're in an election. You need to offer something to voters directly to the voters. And you'll say, we need more votes, and we need to keep the majority because, Evita, our guest here is Evita Duffy, and whose husband is also running for Congress. This is what it's all about. You have to offer something directly to voters. You can't just say, vote for me because I'm a nice guy.
No, you can't. You have to be somebody that's going to deliver for them. And it's hard to compete with Democrats, right? And they're not really even Democrats anymore. These are full on socialists. Full on communists. The communists have occupied the Democratic Party, and what they're offering is sounds pretty good, right? It's free stuff, free everything, free transportation, free childcare, free education. Like it sounds really great. Especially if you're a young person and you're struggling, what can we offer them, right? We actually have to make the economy better. We actually have to discuss how communism has never worked anywhere it's tried, particularly if you look at Venezuela, right? This is not 100 or 50 years in the past. This is right now. This is a completely disastrous country that was destroyed by communism. So we have to talk about what communism leads to, and then also what we're going to deliver for young people, which has to be the American dream, the real way, the American way, not selling out to foreign, foreign business, not selling out to foreign labor, actually delivering for the American people.
It's really simple. So talk me though through a little bit. By the way, you're as we said, of course, your husband is running. I know you guys have a primary. Of course, there's a lot going on. Walk us through what's happening there, the ins, the outs, and where people can go to check out all the latest there. And by the way, what people could be doing this weekend if they are in the district or near the district.
Well, I mean, what Michael talks about all the time is unleashing the American economy. That we're talking about energy independence, getting the deportation numbers up to bring up the value of labor, tax breaks for married couples with children, maybe no taxes, a suggestion by Jack Posobiec, which I love. It's unleashing the American economy. And if Michael's elected, he will be the first member of Congress born this century. And what we talk about a lot is when we are dealing with communists who are running and winning young people, we have to fight them back, and the messenger matters. Michael is 26, he'll be the youngest member of Congress. I think that's a positive thing. I think it's a really good thing. Early voting ends today. The election is August 11th. He will be an incredible congressman, an America First congressman. He's Trump endorsed, and I could not be more proud of him. And there are people who attack him for his age. There are people who attack him for being young, and I just think we have to fight the left in the way that they are fighting us, which is the minds of young people. Michael can win them back.
And I want to be clear about something. Is Michael Alfonso from Wisconsin?
Yes. So this is okay. So we have Republican opponents. These Republican opponents are actually.
I've been watching your social media, and I was like, I'm trying to remember because we've had him on the show. We've had you on the show, and I'm like, you've told me the story so many times about how you guys were like middle school, right? Like basically middle school is when you met.
Yes. Yeah. So
yeah, you're like middle school
Republican
sweethearts and all the rest. I'm like, why are people saying this? Like, you're from Wisconsin. It's so weird.
The anti-Trump dark money Republicans right, are trying to say that Michael is not from Wisconsin. Michael and I met in middle school. Before middle school, he was living in Land O'Lakes. Then we went to high school together. We got married while he was still a student at UW-Madison. He worked construction in Wisconsin before, during, and after graduation. We spent 14 months. That's it, 14 months in Florida, working for the great Dan Bongino. That is it. I mean, we have lived in Wisconsin our entire lives, but this is what never Trumpers and anti-conservative people will do. They lie, they twist the truth, and it's really unfortunate. But Michael and I are from Wisconsin. We met in middle school. He grew up in the North Woods. It is truly disgusting, the lies that are being put on us by our Republican opponents who claim to be pro-Trump and are backed by anti-Trump dark money.
And by the way, when you took that job in Florida, that was during COVID. So you fled to escape the Evers lockdowns. Isn't that right?
Yeah, well, actually, it was a little bit after that. So we did live through the Evers lockdowns while Michael was in college, and it was horrible. And he was actually working construction at the time. So we were in Florida in 2024. I mean, like it was a very short amount of time. And immediately when Dan went to the FBI and we left that job. At the same time he did, we went back to Wisconsin. Wisconsin has always been our home, but they're using this because Michael's a good citizen and registered to vote in Florida. When we moved to Florida, they're saying, oh, he's registered in Florida. And it's really dishonest and obviously fake.
Yeah, no, it's just it blows my mind because it's like your father obviously was the congressman. He was a DA out there. Like everybody knows this. It's not like some big secret, that like, oh, no one's ever heard of these people before. Like no, and you of course have had the the wonderful unique situation of having two parents in media and politics that most people don't get to experience. And which, of course, explains how you came out so messed up, and that and that it goes this way. So it's like this is all so easily verifiable. That's what kills me. It's though I always say that local politics is 100 times worse than national politics because the stakes are so much lower.
It's so true, Jack. And we just got a new mailer today where they're going after my husband and saying he has a spray tan. Jack, my husband has very tan skin from being outside, working it, doing parades, doing dairy breakfast, doing fairs. This is a man who has never spray tanned in his life. Neither have I. Unfortunately, we're out in the hot sun working all day, campaigning, hustling harder than anybody in this race, and they hit him for that, which I just think is absurd. This is what these people do.
And it is, and I've worked local races in the past, but this is one of the reasons that I got out of politics because it's just straight up lies. They go after good people, and we sit and we wonder, why do good people not run? And it's because when you go up against these moneyed interests, all anyone has to do is look at what they did to Trump and look what they say about Trump and they accuse him of, and everything they did to arrest him and go after him in creative, insane ways, because he legitimately just wanted to do the right thing for the right reasons. And people want to complain about that. People want to disagree, but it's actually just true. He had no need to run. He had no financial stake in it. It's just what he wanted to do because he was so upset at the state of the country. And so when I see good candidates like your husband, good families like you guys getting involved, and your whole family obviously is involved in public service with both your parents, that it just and the amount of attacks that you guys have taken, especially they've attacked your own sister, your little sister. They go after. It's unbelievable.
They got after my sister. They went after me when I had a baby. That's what the left does. I had a baby, and that was a
Wait, I didn't
story.
actually miss that one. What did they go after you for?
Oh yeah, the Daily Beast did this whole story attacking me right after I had a child, saying that Nepo baby Evita Duffy, daughter of Trump goon, has a baby. Like it was the craziest headline. Like, I'm sorry,
I saw
had a
that
baby.
headline. I remember. I didn't understand. Like, what was the attack? How dare you have children? I'm confused.
That would be on point with the Daily Beast, right? They hate children, they hate civilization, they hate humanity. I want to say this,
I
Jack.
have one. I have one just before we run. The Politico attacked my oldest son before he was born.
Wow, they hate children, they hate humanity. That's just what they do.
Make your last point, and then we got to run. We're out of time.
I just want to say Michael was inspired by Charlie Kirk's death. That is why he got into this race. It has nothing to do with anything nefarious. There's nothing for them to hit us on, right? That's why they're lying. Michael was inspired by Charlie. He's a great American.
Give him a shout. Michael Alfonso running for Congress. The great Evita Duffy, my favorite anti-communist. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, you have my permission to lay a